Welcome to An Open Mind, a show about walking the path of life. My guest today is Marissa Ryan. Marissa and I have known each other for some time and worked together doing retreats that we just love doing. But today I'd like to talk to Marissa about her extraordinary gift as a psychic medium. And the story that she has to tell, I think you'll be very interested. It's quite unusual. So without me blathering on anymore, I'm going to say, welcome, Marissa.
Thanks, Anita. I'm glad to be here.
Glad you're here. What I thought we might talk about a little bit is how you got into being a psychic medium in the first place. Because I know you were like housewife, kids, middle America, you know.
Absolutely.
The average 2.5 cars, 2.5 kids.
Right. Still am.
Yes, I know you still are, but you have this added thing.
Wow.
So first of all, how did this develop? I mean, how did you get into this?
Well, what happened was I really haven't been a psychic since I was a kid. I didn't have any experiences at all. And then what really happened was it's actually almost 8 years ago, I had my mother and my niece passed, tragically 2 days apart. And it really was something that got me really interested in is there life after death. So I started doing some research. I'd read some books, I started doing research, and I started really believing that it was possible. So it brought a lot of peace to me, but I also realized that I had a sister who was grieving horribly over her daughter dying, and started kind of praying for the gift of I really wanted to be able to communicate with my niece that passed and find out what happened. So a couple years went by, and I got busy in my life and just realized that, if it was real, it was real. If it wasn't, it wasn't. But I wanted something substantial to happen, and it did. It's kind of a long story, so I'll shorten it for you. But what happened was I had a friend of mine actually had a reading with a psychic, and in this reading, a murdered girl came in, and she was very confused, didn't know anybody, who had died. And she called me on the phone because the location was near where I lived, and she said, I'm going to email you this article. So I just said, okay, great, email it to me. I don't even read the paper. I didn't know anything about it. And she emailed it to me, and I opened the email, and I saw this. I read the article, and then I realized that, I didn't know anything about it and closed out my email. But when I turned around to go to bed for the night, after I was in my office, there was this girl standing there. And it was the same girl in the article, and she was standing in front of me, dripping in blood. And
that's a fun way to get.
Yeah, and
hello.
I know. And she just started showing me all the details of her murder. And in this details, she just said, "See, she's here right now. She's here right now."
Hold on a second. Get down. That's Ellie, by the way.
Ellie, okay, great. Anyway, she started showing me the details of her murder. It was kind of like a movie playing in my mind, and it was a very gruesome murder. And she started saying, you have to call the detectives. You have to call them. And I said, what are you, crazy? And I wasn't shocked. People always asked me if I was scared, and I said, no, I really wasn't. I just kind of was like, how can I help you? And so I ended up, went to bed for the night, kind of freaked out, not sure what to do with it. Next thing I know, the next morning I wake up and she's still standing there, waiting for me to get up. And
Did she have coffee or?
No coffee. She just kept saying, you're the one, you need to call them, you need to call them. So I did. I called the detectives and basically said, I just talked to your murder victim. And and they said, oh, really? What did she have to say? And I said, well, she told me that you haven't found her head yet.
Oh.
And when
Were you then a suspect?
Well, what happened was when I said that, they said, well, we want to meet with you. So I ended up, that day, we met in a parking lot of a Target shopping center. And they were there, and they instantly started questioning me. They had a file with my picture in it. They all of a sudden knew everything about me, and they thought that I was actually the murderer's girlfriend trying to turn them in.
Oh.
And so I just started telling them about everything she showed me and everything she said. And I said, she wants to get in the car, and she wants you to follow me, and she's going to take us to some places that have to do with the murder. And so they did. And they weren't sure, they wouldn't indulge any information. They were really very quiet about the whole thing, but they were curious. So we drove about 15 miles in different directions to different locations that they confirmed were areas that parts of her had been found, because she was definitely in parts.
Ew.
And anyways, to make a long story short, I started working on the case for about a year, and within about a week of her first coming to me, she told everybody on the other side that I could see her and hear her and talk to her. And next thing I know, I had people riding in the back of my car. I was a sales rep at the time, so they were following me around the malls and into the Hallmark stores, and they were all trying to get my attention to give messages. And so I would say the first 6 weeks, there were moments I thought I was losing my mind. There's moments my husband thought I was losing my mind.
I can imagine.
But it became really fun. It really became fun, and I really enjoyed starting to give messages to people, and it just kind of took off from there. And within 6 months, I ended up being on radio, and have been doing radio ever since. And
So, how did this impact your family life? I mean, what did your family think about all this?
My kids, my two boys, thought it was great. At first, they were really excited. They thought it was cool.
And they were how old at the time?
They were about 11 and 14. And they both, of course, started saying, well, I think I'm psychic too. And my youngest son had been seeing spirits in our house for years and was always afraid of them. But I just thought he was, a kid who watched too many scary movies.
Oh, yeah.
And didn't realize that he probably was seeing something. And then my husband was very reluctant at first. He kind of thought I was either making it up or was a good guesser or was crazy. Until the first time he heard me on the radio. And I surprised myself as well as my entire family. And he was, amazed, saying, I don't know how you knew all that, but it was amazing. And he has just absolutely supported me ever since.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, and you have a little girl. Has she shown any signs of being interested or following in your footsteps or anything like that?
Well, actually, my daughter was conceived after my mother and my niece had passed. And before this murdered girl came to me, my daughter was about 12 months old and started telling us she could see my mom in her bedroom and that she came every night and sung songs to her.
Oh, really?
And she would go get her picture and kiss her picture, and she'd say, there's Nanny, and Nanny comes to see me, and she didn't even know who Nanny was. And I never talked to her about it at the time. So from the very beginning, she's seen it, and it's kind of funny. She tells her teachers, they'll say, oh, what does your mommy do for work? And she'll say, my mommy talks to dead people on the radio. And she's very connected. She thinks it's great. And she asks a lot of questions about death and can she take all her toys with her. And now she's 6, so she's kind of moving on in life and getting busy and not as aware. But it's interesting. My boys have taken my classes now, and I had one of them actually went on the radio with me and did a couple readings on the radio when he was about 13, and they're very good. They're very good. So.
All right. Wow, so it didn't disrupt your life as much as maybe you would have thought.
I would say it enhanced my life tremendously.
Yeah. And now you have the Awareness Institute in Corona. You want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, I had a dream at the very beginning. It was kind of messages that I really wanted to expand and offer a place where people can come and explore their own gifts, because I had so many people coming to me saying, I'm suddenly seeing things, and I'm waking up, and I don't know what to do. And I said, you know what, I want to make a place that they can come and feel safe and kind of learn and expand their gifts as well. So about 3 years ago, I created the Awareness Institute, and bring in, as you get to, you teach incredible, classes there, and we have a lot of teachers that come in, and people love it, and they're drawn to it, and it's a wonderful energy, and I'm just excited to have it and be a part of it and be able to all come together as a family and, really discover what's out there and learn and share.
That's important, I think, because there's so much, I think there's so much turmoil in the world, and people who are psychic or have certain spiritual awakenings out there in the, quote, real world don't really know what to do and have a hard time finding other like-minded people. So the service you're offering, I think, is very important. The other thing about that, I think, is that it gives a place for teachers also to come and to help others. And I'm just really glad you have it there, because it's kind of a rare thing to have a place that is completely out there and totally honest with what they're doing. I mean, there are plenty of others too, but this area and Corona, I think, really needs it.
I know. It's everywhere needs
Everywhere
it.
needs
Everywhere.
it.
I'd like to
Yeah.
see a ton of people open these up, because there's so many people searching for why things are happening to them,
Yeah.
and they want answers, and they're kind of tired of what they've been brought up to believe, and they've always known there's something more out there, and I think that if we can do that for them, great.
Yeah. And there's so many people in this area who are looking for that. That's what I meant by needs it. Not that there's a lot of darkness or anything, but there's just a lot of people who don't know where else to go. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is you have a really unique way of teaching psychic development. I mean,
Yeah.
it's sort of a sink or swim thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, as a psychic development teacher most of my life, I've always sort of started really slow and, one baby step at a time, and you just sort of throw them in there without a net.
I do.
And it works. It works. So would you tell our audience a little bit about how you do that, or how you even came up with that idea?
Well, when I first started getting all these things happening to me, I was hungry for information, and I would go out and I would buy books and I would research, and I was looking for anything and everything that would not only help me expand my gifts, but help me keep it, because I was so afraid it would be taken away, or it was a temporary gift. And so a lot of people, I notice, you get excited at the beginning, when you first start doing this. It's like you have this little bit of fear, but also a lot of excitement.
Yeah.
And I didn't find any information in any of the books. It was the same. Every book was the same information. Learn your chakras and learn meditation. And I got nothing out of actual instruction. So I decided that I kind of developed my own system, and I call it a question and answer game. That I with spirits, I interview them. It's like I'm a talk show host with them, and ask them a ton of questions and get the answers, and then I give it to the sitter for validation, because to me validation is so important. Anybody can say, oh, they're here with you and they love you, but I want to be able to validate and get details that these spirits are here. So what I teach is the only way a person knows that they are psychic and that they can do this is to actually practice it and do it. And to bring somebody in and have them sit across from somebody they have never met before and have to read them and look and find spirits and discover them and ask the questions and give validation and dig deep into this person's past, present, and future and get complete validation back is what opens them up even more, because they let the barriers of their ego down. They let that down, and it expands them and just opens them up to receive. And once they do that, it relaxes them and calms them down, so they're not forcing the information, and they stop questioning themselves, and they start going, wow, I don't know how I got that, but I did.
Yeah, that's so important.
It is. So
Yeah.
I am writing a book right now on the instruction of doing it, but no matter what, you have to just practice it, and that's it. It's doing the work. You got to do it.
Practice, yeah. Well, what advice would you give to people who maybe have discovered that they have some kind of gift, and they go and maybe get a little instruction, but where do they go from there? What advice would you give to people out there in the world to say, that sounds like me. I know things, I feel things, but I don't know where to go or what to do with it.
Well, the first thing I would do is, first of all, tell them to try and find a group. Okay, try and find a facility or a group or a school, because they are out there. I didn't even realize they were out there when I first started. I was shocked.
Yeah.
But they are. So find a group, whether it be online or actual physical place. The other thing is just practice. They've got to practice, because the more they do, the more they're going to relax and realize, you know what, I really can do this. So. And there's so many ways. They could practice just by when their phone rings or when someone's at their door. They can go online to chat rooms, and there's tons of chat rooms that they can go to and start doing readings online, which I think is valuable to start on the phone or online, where you're not physically looking at someone, where you can get their their physical reactions and their facial reactions. It helps really trust spirit when you start that way. And I didn't do...
Right, then you're just not just reading body language.
I didn't do an in-person reading for the first 2 years I did this.
Yeah.
Every single thing was on the radio or by phone. And so that was really valuable. Another thing is, and I always tell people, watch the news. Watch the news and watch the missing persons cases and the murder cases, and tap into the information and start logging the information, dating it, and then even seal it in an envelope and mail it to themselves, and don't open it. And then when time goes by and those cases are solved, take out that envelope and really look and see how close were you.
What a great idea.
It's just getting validation for yourself. And also, start working on friends and family. That's harder because most friends and family aren't as receptive. They think you know them too much, and you do. So you tend to, it's hard to really validate when you already know so much about them. But I really get, just start practicing. And if you feel comfortable to even admit to your family that you can do this, tell them to send their friends and family.
Yeah. And some people do and some people don't. There's a religious issue also quite often that I come across of people who are feeling guilty about doing this because their church or synagogue or whatever has told them that this is bad or evil.
Yeah.
So, and yet their personal experience is different from what they've taught. So what advice would you give to someone like that?
I would tell them to follow their heart. My own son is 16, and he goes to a Christian church, and he's becoming a youth leader, and he's even started questioning it himself. And I just tell him, research, the information. If you read the Bible and follow the Bible, look in and research if it says, because there's areas that does say that it's possible and that it's okay. The other thing is you have to just follow what your heart says. And believe me, when you've got spirits and the entire spirit world on your side, and they're so eager for you to do this work, they're going to come in and they're going to utilize your gifts. So you have to just follow your heart and know what's right. Don't let anybody make any decisions for you. You just do what's right for you. And a lot of times people like to keep it private at first because they don't want to be ridiculed. It was interesting when I first started this. I have a lot of very highly religious family members, and I thought, wow, I don't even know how to begin to tell them. And the reaction and the support that I've had from friends, family, neighbors, coworkers has been amazing, because it just went to show that people are searching. They're searching for these answers, and they're searching for the knowing of what they've already really known but had no validation. And I think that there's more people searching than people realize.
Oh, I absolutely agree. When I came out of the closet and started telling people, like my hairdresser and manicures and things, that I'm a psychic, it was really scary at first, but then I found a lot of reception there. They, instead of going, oh, do you really believe that, or you're going to hell, they would say, can I have your card?
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing.
Do you readings, in person, on the phone, whatever. So it was very freeing to just let go of what other people thought about what I do and who I am, and just be myself. And if they disagree, they disagree. That's their right.
Well, when I first started this, because in my research for writing my book, I went and interviewed the pastor of my church.
Oh.
Wasn't sure what I was going to get. And it was really receptive, because what she had told me is that she actually grew up in a family that did seances. And she believes that all of this is possible. Her fear was that it wasn't safe.
Oh.
So, and of course, we all, in this business, we have the answer to being safe and how to protect ourselves.
Yeah.
So, I didn't have any problem with that. So it was really interesting just to hear that. And
that is interesting. Yeah.
I think if the work is done with the best intentions and done for the good of people, then there's no stopping you. You got to go for it.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's been your experience or not, but in my experience in dealing with people, it's when the opening comes, when the awakening comes, the more they try to suppress it, the stronger it gets. Yeah. And the universe will direct them toward doing what they need to do in the world, in this work, whether they want to or not, And
it is, yeah.
It just sort of, and it's like following your path in the best way possible. One last question, opinion question. I've noticed, and it's been said that, like you said, that more and more people are awakening now, and there's this big thing about the 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah, and some people are so afraid of it that it's going to be the end of the world, or the mothership is going to come and. I've never figured out whether the mothership's supposed to come take all the bad people away or all the good people away. I don't know. I don't quite understand that myself. But anyway, there are all sorts of theories about what that means, and I was just wondering what your take is on it.
Well, I have questioned scientists. I have questioned fellow coworkers that are psychic and mediums, and I've obviously questioned my higher self and questioned spirits on the other side, because they seem to know more information about life than I do. And one of the things that 2012 to me is going to be exactly like Y2K.
Yeah.
It's going to click over to a new year, and we're still going to have high gas prices, and we're still going to have inflation. It's going to be exactly the same. I just think that we're evolving with a new awakening and a new enlightenment, but it's been going on for 30 years. I don't feel like it's going to be any different. I don't feel like there's a magic day or a D-Day at all. I think that it's... I think that a lot of things written in books are fear-based, and I think the 2012 is fear-based, and I think that it's going to be just a day like any other day, but we're just more and more people are awakening to that day.
Yeah.
And I think it's a day that's been written to make people think about life before and after that day.
And maybe that's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
But, I've been around long enough to remember when 1964 was going to be the end of the world, and 1966, and then 1986, and then 1994, and then 1998, and then 1999, and then 2000, and then 2001.
Yeah.
So those years passed.
Right.
I think, like you were saying, most people won't even notice it. 2012, January 1st, January will be the same. But I do believe that the energies are building, and that all of those dates may have been significant in some way for people.
As far as I'm concerned, that could be a year that a whole new generation of souls come into the world that are highly enlightened. And all of us that are awakening are learning to be here for them, because they're going to be babies, and to be here to guide them. And really, that's my take on it. Of course, I'm hoping that it's going to be a new era of love. But unfortunately, unfortunately, there's, to have love, there's got to be fear, and there's got to be, non-love. So,
yeah. Well, we do live in a world of duality.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do it?
Well, they can go to my website, which is marissaryan.com with one R and one S. They can go to theawarenessinstitute.net, or they can call me, and my number is 951-371-4448.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, great.
And
Thanks for having me.
would you be willing to come on again and maybe do some readings for people?
I would love it.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe if you want to get every show and not miss a minute of all the wonderful guests that I have. Thank you.